3 continents in just over 4 weeks, and the second of 3 long hauls to end the season in the 2022 Motor FIM Superbike World Championship. 25 years since abandoning Sentul, the previous venue for the Pirelli Indonesian round, we make our second visit to the island of Lombok and to the Mandalika International Street Circuit. Constructed just in time for its November 2021 inauguration, the venue was built on the basis of was carried out hastily between turns 17 and 5 after problems were identified at the MotoGP pre-season test. But during the Indonesian Grand Prix, the track surface began to break up, particularly at the last corner, and new asphalt was laid again during October, but that has left grip levels low and made place overtaking at a premium. The best opportunity to make a pass, where we saw the moves that gave Toprak Razgatlioglu his first world title, is the 723-metre start-finish straight and in towards turn 1. Riders scrubbing off around 190 kilometres per hour there from their top speed. The brakes are used here for longer per lap than any other circuit on the calendar, and an estimated 6.5 seconds of that is at the penultimate corner, the heaviest braking zone. The 2022 Indonesian Grand Prix was held exclusively in the wet, so our race lap record from 2021 is the fastest ever racing lap of this circuit. This time a year ago, the island of Lombok hosted the 20th season finale. Toprak Razgatlioglu sealed his first world crown, and it could be Indonesia again to settle the 2022 world title too. Razgatlioglu, in defence of his crown, must outscore series leader Alvaro Bautista by more than 20 points this weekend to take us to a last round decider in Phillip Island next weekend. But he's only managed that once so far this season. Bautista's success could be confirmed as early as this afternoon in race 1 of the 2022 Pirelli Indonesian round. Joining me to witness his march towards Ducati's first world title in over a decade is Steve English. Steve, 6 races remain, 124 points up for grabs, but for now at least it looks a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, it certainly is, and even with Toprak Razgatlioglu smashing the lap record here in Mandalika to take the pole position, and lap pretty close to MotoGP lap record pace as well, it does show just how difficult it's going to be to be able to keep the championship hopes alive, really. 82 points with only 2 rounds remaining, 62 points in each round means that Alvaro Bautista has his opportunity to win the championship in this race, but in all likelihood he's going to have to wait until at least tomorrow.
Quick word on this morning's Superpole session. Toprak Razgatlioglu victorious there by over a second. He still is your only pole sitter here at the Mandalika International Street Circuit. He was on pole here a year ago as well. His 4th pole position of 2022, his 2nd in succession, and his 2nd with Jonathan Rea directly behind him. Alvaro Bautista has only qualified on the seed at Ducati because we had 2 Yamahas on the front row of the grid. Andrea Locatelli front row start, joining Razgatlioglu in a front gunner attack, that's for sure.
Yeah, great stuff from Locatelli to be able to get himself up onto the front row of the grid. He's been on the 2nd row of the grid a few times in recent rounds, but starting on the front row just makes that little bit of a difference for him. Shows that he's making those steps as well. It's obviously not been the season he would have expected on the number 55 Yamaha, but the second half of the season he has made good steps forward, particularly in that single lap pace.
Key number coming into this round is 82. 82 points adrift of Alvaro Bautista is Toprak Razgatlioglu. That is the biggest his deficit has been to top spot at any stage in 2022, and of course there are now only 6 races remaining. Razgatlioglu was 77 points down after the opening 10 races of the season. He's largely matched the Ducati man scoring since then, but suffered a couple of major losses. Some 29 points at the Catalonia round, another 26 points dropped last time out in San Juan, and that was mainly because of a race 1 crash.
Yeah, that's been the difference between Toprak and Bautista through the course of this season. Bautista hasn't made the mistakes, and Toprak and Yamaha have made a few mistakes. They've had a technical issue in a few rounds, and for Toprak, that crash last time out in Argentina, it showed you under as well. He couldn't even afford to give Bautista 1 corner, he felt, before the race would have been lost. So that shows you just the extent to which Bautista's put all these other riders under that strain.
Bautista, a race winner at 9 of the 10 venues we've visited this season. He's also hit his stride at just the right time for a sprint finish in 2022, dropping just 11 points from the last 3 rounds and adding 6 victories in that spell, 2 of those in Argentina last time out.
Yeah, and last time out in Argentina we saw that Alvaro, as usual, able to get the most out of his package and make the most of it. And that's been the difference between 2019 and 2022. He's been able to learn the lessons from how to get the most out of this bike, how to avoid making mistakes, and then how to make sure that you've got yourself the chance to be able to pick up as many wins as possible in big points paying finishes.
Jonathan Rea then is the other mathematical contender for the world title, but he sits 98 points down on Alvaro Bautista. Rea, who was unbeaten here in 2021, has only won 5 of the 30 races in WorldSBK since then, and none in the last 7 rounds. Wasn't far off, to be fair, in the Superpole race in San Juan, just missed a gear into turn 1 from the lead, but down in 3rd in the championship, and he hasn't been in this position at any stage of his Kawasaki career.
Yeah, it's very much uncharted territory for Jonathan Rea and for Kawasaki as well. For 10 years, they've had so much success, and I think this season's been a rude awakening for them.
Yes, as we see Michael Ruben Rinaldi, who is pretty comfortable as best of the rest in 4th in the championship. He's 43 points clear of his nearest rival. Remains 3 podiums and 3 wins short of his exploits over the course of last season, but he has been more consistent with top 5 finishes in more than half of 2022's races.
Yeah, Rinaldi's been able to do a really good job this season to be able to sit 4th in the World Championship. That's what the goal has to be when you're the second Ducati rider, whenever you've got Rea, Razgatlioglu and Bautista racking up so many podium finishes. It's very difficult to hope for much more than 4th in the championship standings. He's been able to achieve that up to this point, and now it's about trying to get that across the line.
Rinaldi will defend that 4th position in the standings ahead of the likes of Alex Lowes, Andrea Locatelli and Axel Bassani. This is Locatelli. Outstanding performance from him in Superpole to get up onto the front row of the grid. First time he's qualified inside those top 3 places, so a real accolade for Locatelli.
Yeah, had a big chat with Paul Denning, his team manager, at the start of the weekend, and Paul was very much wanted to stress just how Locatelli, the overall standings mightn't show it, but he's made a much better job of racing this season. He's been faster every track we've gone to. He's been able to make a step for single lap pace and race pace.
Now 5th overall in the championship and ahead of Andrea Locatelli. Alex Lowes, he's had back-to-back rounds without dropping from the top 6, and the highest his championship ranking in 2022 has been, after starting with something of a handicap, leaving Assen in April down in 8th. Lowes looking set for his best championship ranking since joining Kawasaki, and considering how the going has got gradually tougher over the last 3 years for Kawasaki, that proves that Lowes is making some real progress.
Yeah, obviously last year a lot of injuries for Lowes that left him missing an awful lot of races, so that didn't really give him a fair reflection on where he was last year. But you would say that this season, from Assen onwards, obviously 2 technical failures in Assen, a crash in Aragon, so 3 of the first 6 races were pretty tough for him, but from that point onwards, Estoril on, he's been able to make good steps, and from the summer tests on especially, he's been very consistent, close to Jonathan Rea in single lap pace once again here.
We have had 10 previous races in Indonesia, 8 of them in Sentul, and now the Mandalika International Street Circuit. We talked about the resurfacing work that had gone on in advance of this round, right the way up to the last couple of weeks before this round taking place. It meant that free practice at the start of the weekend, the pace was shockingly slow. Everything's gradually improved. You'll see as the riders come round towards the starting grid, a thin black ribbon that is the racing line, and that is the place to be. And for riders that we've seen throughout this weekend, it is treacherous if they slip off it.
Yeah, and I think in the Superpole session we did see quite a few riders look very nervous on their bikes. Just having seen the Super Sport session with a lot of crashes, they didn't want to join anyone on the sidelines. So certainly if you're in race conditions, you know that you're going to have to make some moves, you're going to have to be off the line at different times, and that's where the start of this race is critical, being on the clean side of the grid. So Razgatlioglu, Lowes, Javi Vierge, Garrett Gerloff and Javi Forez in the first 5 rows of the grid, they're going to feel that on the cleaner line they might have a little bit of an advantage.
So we see Axel Bassani. Bassani will be starting from 6th on the grid, and that matches his previous best Superpole performance of this 2022 campaign. So Bassani will be pleased enough with that. Our top independent rider for 2022, because he has a sizable margin over Garrett Gerloff. Bassani on 206 points. Garrett Gerloff, the reigning top independent, on 112. A couple of bits of rider news. Unfortunately, we are without Iker Lecuona for the remainder of this weekend. He suffered a high side at turn 4 in free practice 2 yesterday. Suffered a fractured vertebra and also sacrum. That's the bone directly above the coccyx. So Iker Lecuona flown to the nearest city hospital, and unfortunately he will not be fit to take his part in the remainder of the weekend. So Honda down to 1 representative, although Xavi Vierge doing a good job in Superpole earlier on today in his teammate's absence, qualifying a joint personal best of P7. We're also without Luca Mayas in race 1 this afternoon. He picked up an ankle sprain with a crash at turn 16.
Yeah, so Luca will be assessed in the morning to see whether he'll be able to take part in the Superpole race and race 2 in the afternoon.
So in the meanwhile, we have a 20-rider field completed by Kyle Smith, who is the 8th and most recent rider to line up for the Pedicini Kawasaki. So a 20-rider field, and Kyle Smith still learning the ropes. But the focus is on the world champion-elect Alvaro Bautista, and his route to the championship title in Indonesia is clear. He's got to defend the bulk of that 82-point lead, and the permutations for him to claim the title this afternoon, admittedly slightly more complex. Also needs to beat Jonathan Ray and to outscore Toprak Razgatlioglu by 17 points. So barring dramas for the reigning title holder, Bautista should be made to wait until tomorrow to seal the deal.
Yeah, and certainly for Toprak, the form that he's been in all the way through this weekend, not just the Superpole session. Yesterday afternoon he did a big long run in free practice 2, looked really consistent, looked very confident out there, so he is going to be the rider to beat. So for Bautista, from the middle of the second row of the grid in 5th position, it's going to be a challenge.
We make our way up through the grid here then with Razgatlioglu, Ray and Locatelli, as we've already said, the top 3 men in Superpole earlier on. Alex Lowe's just missing out by a fraction on a place on the front row of the grid. Alvaro Bautista and Axel Bassani qualifying alongside him. And plenty to look forward to in that battle once again between the top 3 in the championship standings. Can Jonathan Ray maintain his unbeaten run here in Mandalika and also get his first race victory since Estoril? Seems like every round we're counting the days since his last win, and that number's only going up. Yeah, and it might go up even further from today as well. I think that the Kawasaki team look to be a little bit on the back foot compared to some of their rivals, but it's very different conditions now as well. There's more rubber gone down, and the track should be a little bit less abrasive compared to yesterday. But we did see in the Supersport race that quite a few riders were suffering with that front tyre wear. So let's introduce you to the field in full, starting with our pole sitter, Toprak Razgatlioglu. 150 race starts now under his belt in WorldSBK. This afternoon is actually going to be his 90th with Yamaha, and of the races so far with the manufacturer, he's already managed 62 podiums, so that's 69% of his races with Yamaha that he's been on the podium, and he won a record-equaling 27th win for the brand last time out. Alongside him on the front row of the grid, Jonathan Ray, who's been beaten by Alvaro Bautista in each of the last 9 races consecutively, and another defeat at the hands of the Ducati man here. He'll be ruled mathematically out of contention for the 2022 title. He's already 98 points down, back in 3rd in the championship. Yeah, Ray's given up. Knows that it's all about trying to make sure he's able to get the best results possible in these final 2 rounds of the year. Like I said, Alex, the drought for a race victory is going on, and it's going to be a challenge to bring the fight to Toprak in this race as well. Yes, Jonathan Ray, who's been top scorer at just 1 of the 10 rounds in 2022 thus far. That was the Estoril round in May when he was last a race winner. 6 consecutive 3 points from the Argentinian round last time out, his best score since the UK round in July. Completing the front row of the grid here, Andrea Locatelli. He was 4th in the championship from Sunday in Assen 7 months ago, right the way until Manicourt, but his scoring really has dropped from then on. He's the only rider who's completed every lap this season, so that reliability has helped him to maintain 6th overall. But remember, that's 2 places behind where he finished his rookie 2021 campaign. Yeah, I think that last year, obviously,
probably outperformed expectations a little bit. And this year he's been a little bit underperforming the pre-season expectations. As it is, he has made good steps forward in terms of his overall performance, but for Locatelli, really important to be able to finish off the season strong. Good Super Bowl effort.
On the second row of the grid, we have Alex Lowe's, Alvaro Bautista and Axel Bassani. Lowe's making his 250th race start this afternoon. He is 8th in WorldSBK's all-time appearance rankings, and it's going to be his first start here in Mandalika because last season a fall in FP3 aggravated the shoulder injury that he carried throughout the latter stages of the campaign.
Yeah, and it has been one of those issues that certainly dogged him all the way through last year. It's been good to see him full fitness this year and be able to show a lot more about what he can do.
This is Alvaro Bautista, who starts 5th on the grid. 27 podiums from 30 races for him. That's 3 podiums more than he managed in the whole of the 13-round 2019 season. And after throwing points up, he is set for a remarkable redemption. Only a series of retirements could deny him now, because if he finishes 7th in every remaining race, he'll do enough to score the 42 points he needs to be world champion, and that's regardless of his rivals' efforts.
Yeah, and that's where for Toprak it really has been a case of just trying to make sure you're able to win as many races as possible. And when we talked to him on Thursday in the media centre, that was exactly what he said. He said he wanted to do the treble this weekend, and whatever about the championship, that'll take care of itself, but it's all about winning races for Toprak.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, who leads the Tissot Super Pole Award, receiving his latest watch for his 4th pole position of 2022. He's also won 6 Super Pole races on Sunday mornings, so 6 out of 10 for him. Cost himself 8 points from race 2 in Argentina because he failed to serve a long lap penalty for a collision with Loris Baz, and those wasted points have dropped him to 7th in the championship. But his weekend in San Juan started with a podium, another 3rd place for him, and that was his 3rd podium of 2022.
Yeah, and for Bassani, the second half of the year has been really impressive, and making that step again like you would like to see from him, and the opportunity to be that top independent.
Ruben Rinaldi, WorldSBK, who put in his best scoring round of the season so far last time out in Argentina as he finds form late in the campaign. Now put in his longest sequence of consecutive top 10 finishes, extending the last 8 races, and he looks settled in 10th overall. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we can hear from him now with Anthony on the grids.
Thanks, Alex. Indeed we can. Xavi, your best qualifying performance of the season. Right now, this looks like an extremely difficult race. It's the hottest we've had all weekend so far.
Yes, it will be a difficult race. Like you all see, the line is so tight, so it will be really difficult to overtake. But we make a good qualifying. Let's see if we can make a good start and go with the first goal.
Oh, best of luck.
Well, Xavi WorldSBK obviously choosing to wear his helmet quite nice and early. The other riders, as you can see, just trying to keep as cool as possible. It is scorching out there, and 58% humidity as well. Yeah,
36 degrees air temperature, very high track temperature as well, into the 60 degrees in a lot of areas on this track. So it is going to be very difficult conditions for them, and maybe Xavi's just keen to get the sweat on nice and early.
Yes, they do say that the sweating cools you down, don't they? Scott Redding and Michael Ruben Rinaldi complete that 3rd row of the grid. Redding is lining up here in P8. Podium finisher alongside Jonathan Ray in both races here last year. He's gone the last 11 races now without a podium for BMW after that mid-season spurt that saw him pick up 3 in 6 races. He's managed only 4 top 10 finishes in the last 3 rounds, so Catalonia and Portugal particularly disappointing for him. Michael Ruben Rinaldi will line up from P9 back to Manicourt. This weekend will be a test of that improved consistency, though. This was his worst venue in 2021. He left with just 4 points and a neck injury after a race 2 crash from 8th.
Yeah, so for Rinaldi, we saw in the Super Pole session, not really that far off the pace of what he would have wanted to be, only a quarter of a second slower than Alvaro Bautista, but that translated to an extra row in the grid, and for Rinaldi, a lot of work to be done in this race.
And to be fair, aside from the second in the battle for second.
Yeah, and all the way down to even the likes of Xavi Fares on the 5th row of the grid, and Coach Nazane all within a few tenths of a second of being able to get themselves quite a few rows up the grid as well. So it was very close in the Super Bowl session behind Toprak.
Row number 4, Garrett Gerloff, Michael van der Mark and Philip Ertl. Gerloff 2021 here in Mandalika last season. He's not going to manage that this season. Axel Bassani may even claim that from him today. Gerloff, a podium finisher in race 1 of the Catalonia round. but he's only scored 20 points in the 8 races since.
Yeah, and for Gerloff, a move to BMW beckons for next year. It looks like he's going to be reunited with his crew chief Les Pearson as well, so that's going to be interesting to see how they work with a new project.
A year now since his most recent podium, Michael van der Mark, and that was a third place at this venue in race 2 of the 2021 Indonesian round. He is still struggling with injury, but he's made a step forward with 20 points in the last 2 rounds and will now benefit from the forthcoming winter break to heal.
Yeah, only 3 points between BMW and Honda in that battle for not finishing last in the manufacturer's standings. So for Van der Mark, for Redding, for Loris Baz, really important for them to be able to outperform Xavi Vierge.
Just 2 points last time. Tina for Philip Ertl. That was his worst in his rookie Superbike season. He was struggling throughout the weekend with a problem with his left arm. There's only 6 left-handers here in Mandalika, so that's going to help his cause. Plus, he's been giving special attention to that injury in preparation for these final 2 rounds. This is Xavi Forés, who lines up on row 5 alongside him Kota Nazane and Loris Baz. As far as Forés is concerned, the Spanish veteran making his first visit to Mandalika. He was racing in the British Championship last year. This is his 3rd appearance of the 2022 season and 1 last time out.
Yeah, we could see Barney on the grid there with the cool vest on, so even the team managers trying to get themselves as cool as possible down on the grid.
Kota Nazane recorded his best finish to date in WorldSBK with a 7th place finish here last year, so this weekend may well be his best chance of signing off from the series on a relative high. Hasn't made it back to the top 10 at all in 2022, failed to score a point in either of the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, it's been a tough season for Kota. Obviously, he'll be moving on to the Moto2 World Championship next year, and we'll see what results he can.
Loris Baz looking to bounce back from his worst round of the season so far last time out. Picked up just a single point from the trip to Argentina, hoping that his first visit to Indonesia will be somewhat more rewarding. He's had 10 9th place finishes in the last 6 rounds, and they are the best of his results since Assen.
Yeah, and for Baz, hopefully we'll be able to see him make some progress in the early stages of this race, because he's been quite close to the other BMW riders through the course of this weekend.
Oliver Koenig and Tati Mercado on the row behind. Jareen, who will make his 25th Superbike race start as he returns from a training injury that kept him out of the Argentinian round. Thus far, he's managed points in just 1 of them. That was race 2 in Most. The field 3 riders smaller this weekend than it was there, so perhaps that brings him a little closer to the top 15. Alongside him, Oliver Koenig and Tati Mercado, Carl Smith and Eugene Laverty behind. And as we build up to the action, an opportunity to head back down to the grid with Anthony.
Thanks, Alex. I'm here with Paul Denham. Paul, yeah, perfect. How difficult it was to overtake us in an important position.
Yeah, very much so. Toprak's just continued to do what he's been doing all weekend, which is to just ride at an incredibly high level, and worked as great as a team during qualifying with a locker following him, and increasing his own level, and very, very narrowly missing out on a 1-2. So great quali session. Won't be as easy to repeat in the race, but Toprak's fully focused, and Locker needs a result. And well, I'm just glad I'm stood in the garage watching it and not trying to ride a motorbike for 21 laps in this. It's brutal out here.
Let's get out of here quickly. Thanks, Paul.
As we continue on through the grid then, it is scorching down there, so thanks for bringing us that, Anthony, and also Paul Denning. This is Tati Mercado, who lines up from P18. He was 9th place here in race 1 last season. That remains his most recent top 10 finish. He's only scored 2 points this season, and he'll have been particularly frustrated not to have been in contention at his home round in Argentina 3 weeks ago. Has been a pretty miserable 2022 for him. Kyle Smith makes his Superbike debut. The 31-year-old, better known in this paddock for his 76 starts in Supersport, his 10 podiums. Remember, he was 2nd with VFT in Estoril earlier on season, and a few wins for him. Also a former Superstock regular, and a bit of a busman's holiday for him this weekend, because he split with VFT in Supersport after Manicure, but still gets in these end-of-season flyaways by becoming the 8th different rider on the Pedicini Kawasaki in 2022. The field completed by Eugene Laverty. His first visit to this venue, he was without a team from early July 2021 onwards, and with only a few substitute appearances for him later in the year. He'll bow out with his 3 end-of-career fly-away rounds. The 900th Superbike World Championship race is coming up in just a few moments' time, and it could be a World Championship decider. Bautista versus Razgatlioglu at the head of the field. first championship point to Alvaro Bautista. If he beats Jonathan Rea here and outscores Toprak Razgatlioglu by 17, he will be world champion with 5 races to spare. Only 99 points available tomorrow and next weekend combined. A lead of 82 puts him within touching distance of the 2022 crown. Steve English alongside me for an historic milestone, Superbike's 900th